Welcome participants for the program Opportunities on RCEP, India after RCEP. The faculty for the today program is Mr. Shohel Abidi, who is a research advisor and GOG editor of AMS programs.
Good evening, friends. Unfortunately, my video is not working because I am not at my home and in my usual place, and that is the reason. So anyway, I am not very good to look at, so that is not a problem. Main thing is to uh, get the message. So we will start this program, India after RCEP. Opportunities and threat. I will speak very little on actual RCEP, what it is, negotiation. We are not concerned as exporter. We are more interested in how we negotiate this agreement, and there are many other agreements. Some India have not signed, but still it affects as exporters. So main thing is to find our way rather than going into the nitty-gritties of negotiations. What is RCEP? Quickly, it is a free trade agreement between Asian countries, 11 Asian countries, and its 5 FTA partners. Here you can see India, it's an old map, and it is not, now India has withdrawn from it. So it is Asian 11 countries plus China, Korea, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. It's the world's biggest free trade agreement, almost 340 crore population. Of course, half of it is China. GDP is 40% of the global. Again, China, Japan, Korea are the major. But main thing is that it is a region with very high economic growth. Asian countries are growing at 7 to 8%. And same is with China. China again this year is growing very well. So it's a good thing. We should have joined it. It would have benefited. But there are certain pitfalls why India has not joined. We will spend a few minutes on that, and then we will move forward. So you see so many headlines. One gets confused. Some say it's the right thing to do. Some say, oh, we will. Now, different people see things from different angles. And that is the reason why economists and trade specialists, there is no one opinion whether India did the right thing or India should have signed the RCEP in spite of all the drawbacks. But we will see why India did not sign, and that from there we will take it forward as to what we should do. So this is not the only mega trade agreement. We have more coming. This Trans-Pacific Alliance has already in force. US joined under Trump, then under Obama, then it left under Trump. Now it seems that Biden may again join it. So it's a Pacific, those countries which are on the Pacific Rim. Then this is between US, Canada and European Union. This is stalled because of Brexit issues. So probably now that Brexit is over, probably this year again they will resume the negotiation, but there are a lot of problems between European Union and US. So it may not have a very fast conclusion. Only 2 months back, both European Union and US put additional duties on each other's import of aerospace parts, and also US has put additional duties on import of certain items from France based on. So this may have to have a lengthy negotiation. RCEP is already signed, but we have to see. You see, signing is only the first thing. We have to see how it progresses, because it has many different countries. Some are big, some are small, some are very advanced, some are like Burma and Cambodia are just at the bottom of the scale. This is very important for us, African Continental Economic Community, AFCFTA. This came, this came into force on 1st of January of this year. 53 out of 54 countries have joined. It is like a European Union. That means now the whole of Africa, except Eritrea, is now one market. And that will open up the industrialization of Africa, and that will open up the import of various types of industrial and intermediate materials. So that is an area where one has to keep, the exporters must keep a sharp lookout. It will go very fast, and already many countries are growing at 7 to 9%. There is a very big middle class emerging. So it will have different types of market for different types of products. Then Mercosur, Pacific Alliance, these are all in South America. Talks are going on for merging of Pacific Alliance and Mercosur, but so far nothing great has happened. EU is one of the most successful. Of course, Britain has come out. Turkey has a free trade agreement with EU. Turkey products go duty-free into EU. This is the old NAFTA between US, Canada, and Mexico. It has been renamed now US, Canada, Mexico Free Trade Agreement. Then EAEU, Euro-Asian Economic Union, India is negotiating, and this may be the next trade agreement which we will conclude, because there are not many outstanding issues here. So many more such agreements will come, and unfortunately, India will not be a part of most of them. So if we don't join RCEP, we cannot negotiate with strength with any other country, because not only they are integrating their tariff, they are also integrating their economies in certain extent. That means free movement of people, etc. Our negotiation with US, European Union, New Zealand, Australia is stuck for a very long time, but we don't see any resolution. We keep hearing now and then that we will sign some early harvesting agreement with US, but nothing has happened. At the same time, we must find new markets for our stagnant export. For our 5 years now, our exports, if you leave aside the inflation, our exports have not increased. Even before COVID, it was quite stagnant. Our exports to US and EU are coming under stringent SPLs, because we export a lot of chemicals and food items which have very tough conditions of entry. Asian countries were looking at India to balance out China, but India withdrew, so that thing is out. So India is not the only example. I mean, last year, around the same time as India said that we will not agree, European Union and Mercosur, after 20 years of negotiation, they signed an agreement, but it was cancelled by the Dutch Parliament. And unless all the countries' parliament agree, they cannot have it. So they will again have to go back. And the Dutch Parliament was not concerned about the export and import. It was more concerned about Brazil's climate. The export of agricultural products from Brazil will increase the reduction of the Amazon rainforest, and on that point, and it will create a further crisis in the climate, global climate. On that issue only, Netherlands refused to sign. So you see, lot of issues are adding. It started with only a tariff. That means we give you 0% tariff, you give us 0% tariff on a range of products, and that will increase our market. But now we see more and more extra items are entering our, and these things will enter our negotiation with EU also. It is not only with RCEP, with EU. In fact, RCEP is a much liberal thing, but EU, our agreement with EU, we will have to satisfy many of EU's conditions. So India has opted out for these reasons. China will dump its product. China is already dumping in the Indian market. We have a trade China has a trade surplus of almost $60 billion. We wanted up to 20 years to eliminate Indian tariffs so that our industries can reach a competitive stage, which the RCEP refused. This is another thing that when you dumping at a certain scale, it should immediately trigger that this dumping has started, rather than the dumping has to be, you have to prove to the country which is dumping that this is the, you are reducing the price or you are giving subsidy up to this amount. So automatic triggers, which was not agreed upon. So every item you have to again go back and do your calculation. Very liberal country of origin. That means if China sends raw material to Vietnam and Vietnam puts 35% value addition, it can export to India without duty. It is a very, very dangerous thing. And we will see little later how it affects the trade between countries within RCEP, and how it will benefit some countries, but India will not benefit. Even with higher, India wanted higher country of origin rule, that means about 50%, that it must give 50% value addition. But RCEP, the Asian countries wanted lower, because they are not into manufacturing of parts and sub-assemblies. They are mostly into final assembly of products. All the raw material and all the parts and all the sub-assemblies come from China or other country. They just assemble it and export. So they want liberal, but for India, it's a very dangerous thing, and it is one of the sticky points. This is a little technical. We will just that India wanted the prices of 2019. They said no, 2014. Which, but positive is that it is less intrusive. When we talk to EU want our labor laws changed, and so many other things they would like to change. But here, because it is China controlled, they have given up all these, like environmental or labor laws, etc. Nothing doing. It's strictly trade oriented. Our last 2-3, even before our trade economic slowed down, even before COVID, it was slowing down. So that could have triggered the government to not to sign at this moment. But the fact remains that our industries are not globally competitive. If they were globally competitive, they can compete against China. But that is not the case at this moment. We have lost a lot of time in moving up the value chain. So that is the hard facts we have to accept. Then some of these pressure, our illegal demands come. Now this is a betel nut. Now we are the 60% global supplier is India. Now betel nut farmers, they want that India should not be, this product should be kept out. How can you keep out when India is the 60% global market share? It is very, very unfortunate that on these matters, because they affect certain farming group or certain pressure groups. So we have to the government and the political leadership, they decide to base their decisions on such factors. You see, we are the leading manufacturer, a leading grower and exporter. How can we say that keep this out? It will affect our industries. Similarly, auto sector wanted auto sector to be kept out. It is the 6th largest by this year because of COVID. Maybe by 2022 we will be the 4th largest. An industry which is 4th largest in the world. Why should be it? And we say that we export to some 90 countries in the world. Why should we be afraid of global competition? These industries are already, but they put their foot down. And most illogical was, when Harley David reduced the import duty on Harley David imports under pressure from Trump, the government induced from 100% to 50%. Did the market increase for Harley David? No. Last year, or in 2020, Harley David left India because even with duty halved, it could not capture the market. So capturing a market where duty is only one aspect of the pricing, it is not total pricing, you know. So we have a garment and a textile uploader where some 5 to 6 million people are involved, that we have put under threat by negotiating with and not agreeing to imports from wine imports from European Union because we have a nascent, but India rank is 54 in the world wine producing countries. I mean, how can it compare with garment industry where 5 million poor people have jobs and it is a 20 million, $16 billion industry, garment industry, and $40 billion textile industry total. So these are the illogical demands which have kept our, and these demands come from through powerful politicians. So that has kept our, negotiations off the table. So country origin is a very important thing. How much value it should add? India wanted 50%. China and Asian wants nominal, that is around 35%, which is also our FTA with Asia. Pacific Alliance, it is 50%, that Indian parts go into Indian parts go into manufacturing of cars in Mexico, which are further exported to NAFTA. 62%. When India exports parts to Mexico, those parts go into manufacturing of cars, which are exported to Canada and US. So the METAP says that 62% value addition must come from Mexico. It wants free duty. So this is such a high figure. So that means many Indian companies have to go and put up their plants in Mexico if they want to do business. So here, when we say it should be 35%, that is opening the gates of Indian. This is a very, very sticky point. And still, in spite of NAFTA having such a 62%, our trade with NAFTA countries have grown fast, and our trade with Asian has not grown that fast, you see. And these are the countries where such, so our trade with, we are with all the countries in Asian, we have a negative balance of payment. So industry is going out of China. We thought that they may come to us, but it has not come. Stainless steel and cement industries have gone to India. China will never put up its industries in India, that we have to take for granted. Multinationals who are operating out of China, they may shift certain production, but they will also see for each product whether you should go to Cambodia, whether you should go to Indonesia, whether you should go to Malaysia or Vietnam or India. So garment industry has gone to Vietnam, Myanmar, Bangladesh. Indonesian plant is producing stainless steel through an environmentally hazardous. So a industry which even in China cannot operate. So it has found an easy way to operate in Indonesia, where the environmental laws are very, very loose. And so these industries cannot come to India. Our environmental laws are quite strong. So look at this example of Samsonite. It has 95% production in China. Then it shifted its production out of China. And now only 35% production is from China. Where has the production gone? Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia. That is when RCEP is not even in force. So India is not in the picture in this transfer of industries to other countries. You know, now you see India's export last year, 322 billion, down 0.4%. Vietnam up 24.9%. Very soon you will find Vietnam, I think by 2023, 24, maybe 25, Vietnam exports will exceed India's export. Why? There are so many reasons, we'll come later. We don't want to spend so much time in all those causes why industries are not coming to India. So RCEP has two types of countries, Japan, Korea, China, who make high technology products, who manufacture parts and sub-machines, where the labor cost is high. They transfer these parts to other countries, Cambodia, Myanmar, and who will carry out the labor-intensive assembly. Now they wanted to export these items to India, which India refused. One of the reason is that, So this will increase the trade by $90 billion. It suits both Asian countries and high-tech countries, but it does not suit India, which wants to be in high technology area also. For example, high performance fabrics, they are manufactured in Japan and Korea. Those fabrics go to Vietnam, where sewing is done into garments like swimwear, and then it is exported throughout the world. So it suits Asian countries, it suits China, it suits, but it does not suit India, because this job would not have come to India in any case. Now, again, think that who is dumping most in India? Maximum dumping is done by China. You see all the RCEP countries, China, South Korea, Thailand, Indonesia, Japan, they are among the top nations who are dumping in India. Now with RCEP signed, dumping would have increased and we would not be able to do anything about it, because it is not easy to come out. Once you have signed a treaty, you cannot come out. India is trying to renegotiate treaty with Asian countries, but they said that not immediately. So once the treaty is signed, it is for long term. You cannot unilaterally withdraw it without affecting the relationship of various countries. So China's concern again is that we are importing now because of these problems, and because it was last year's border issues. Indian government woke up suddenly that we must have Atmanirbhar Bharat. So over a period of time, many of these products, we will reduce more and more our dependence on China. You can say that 62 war came as a blessing in disguise, because that allowed India to re-equip its army and it could defeat Pakistan in the 65 war. Same thing last year. It is a good wake-up call, which has allowed us to reduce our dependence on China. And for many products, if we continue on our journey of import substitution, we will be able to create more products for the export market also. So government wants net import of electronic products. That means that we should also be now producing more and more PCB and other parts, which the government is now put the policy framework in place so that company can start manufacturing. And this again, API, the bulk drugs required for pharmaceutical, they are required for our export. Again, Indian government has put certain policy and mega parks have been announced. Hopefully by 2025, we may not be able to reduce by 60%, but certainly we can reduce it to about 20-25%. We cannot totally reduce, but it can be reduced to a very manageable figure. And over the long term, maybe by 2030, we may be able to reduce even. But the gap between Indian and Chinese industries is very large. Both number of companies, the size of factories, and the type of products they make. So let's hope that newly launched PLI will be very, companies will come forward and take. So main reason is that our trade, there is no such thing as a trade is not delinked from politics and strategic relations between countries. If you see any country between China and US, even with the European Union and US, the strategic politics and trade go hand in hand. When Australia criticized Chinese government on its action in Hong Kong, China stopped the import of our $2 billion worth of products from Australia to teach them lesson. How they will manage it in within RCEP, when both the countries are part of it, we will have to see. That will create a very interesting situation. We can see from the sidelines. China has shown that we have the potential. Only thing is that we should be continuous journey, and what the government's ad hoc policy should end. It must have a long-term commitment to various types of industrialization. Then we can have not only an industry which is self-sufficient, but we are export. In fact, in April, I wrote this article in Express Pharma. If you want, you can read it. That our API export, we should put our sights higher than just Atmanirbhar Bharat. We have the potential to by 2030 to become #1 in the world in the export of API, which can even be higher than our export of. Today we are exporting $5 billion. And if we continue with the same type of growth, it may go up to $20-25 billion. But we can increase by another 50% by taking certain actions. We will just give up this because now time is as a constraint. So there are many constraints. The problem is not only with our RCEP, but also our agreement with Bangladesh. Our agreement with Bangladesh means we can import garments from Bangladesh at 0% duty. Unfortunately, our negotiators did not put any condition of textiles, that you use our textile to export products to India. So China exports textiles to Bangladesh, which further exports. If you go to any of these H&M shops or to Marks and Spencer in Delhi or any place, you will see the labels. You will see at least half of them are from Bangladesh. You see, because Bangladesh has FTA with both China and India, provides backdoor entry. Bangladesh exports at 0 duty, but it imports at 125% duty. India cannot export garments to Bangladesh. See how it has grown, largely at our cost, because our negotiators did not put certain condition in it. And there are so many other products, but you see, everything is not a problem. Biggest problem is our dairy industry, and China is not the only country where we have problems. We have largest producer of milk in the world. Every day, you read in the papers, India is the largest producer. But what is the yield of? Now, New Zealand dairy model is, dairy is privately owned. Each dairy consists of about 1,000 to 2,000 cows and buffaloes. Our dairy model is collecting milk from more than 5 to 6 million farmers, 16 million farmers who have an average of 2.4 cattle. Now we cannot, New Zealand dairy produces milk and other products at a much lower cost than India, So there you can say yield per animal is 3 to 4 times our yield. So we cannot compete. We cannot say, okay, come, big dairies can come and enter India. It will wipe out. Even Amul can be wiped out. Those dairies in New Zealand are so big, Fonterra, etc. They are so big, they can wipe out even our Amul. So this is the biggest, that Australia and New Zealand will dump their dairy products unless there is some safeguards, which was not there in the RCEP model. Now India has the choice to go and do separate trade agreement with Australia and New Zealand, on our terms or mutually beneficial terms. We already have trade agreement with ASEAN, South Korea and Japan. We don't have any agreement with China, and we are not even in discussion form. So ASEAN also, they were supposed to reduce on almost 3/4 of the products, they were supposed to reduce duty. But countries like Indonesia have only reduced duty by about 45 to 50%. So they have used so many different types of non-tariff barriers to reduce the market access of our products. And that is a very big problem with Asian countries, that they are exporting more and they are importing less. Again, movement of professional, of course, with Japan, we have Indian government has signed agreement only last week, and we'll come to it later. But some of the positive aspects is that we also import lower priced products from Asian countries, just like we import from China, and we add value and send it to Russia and Italy and other countries. So these are the non-tariff barriers. The moment you have an agreement on reduction tariff, immediately non-tariff barriers go up. So many different types of non-tariff barriers are there. I don't want to go into so much discussion on that. But main thing is that these are the reasons why our exports to Asian countries are not going up. And this is the reason why our exports to China are not going up. They are going up only when China wants a certain product which is not in short, which is in short supply, or which then they reduce the barriers. Otherwise, the barriers are very high. And most of the reasons is they just application just got lost in the vast bureaucracy there. By design, not by chance, but by design. So highest non-tariff barriers are used by many of our RCEP partners like Korea, Australia, Japan, Thailand. So they use non-tariff barriers to reduce the import of products which their industries are not able to compete against. So we have a very modest standards, but our standards is going up very soon. Government has started a very big program of harmonizing our standards with global standards. For example, just to give you an example, Brazil says if you want to import any medical device, for example, we are exporting a lot of protective gear throughout the world, then that their inspection agency must inspect the factory in India. Now, Brazil has a limited number of inspectors, and you do not know when they will come, this month or next year. So this is how various countries try to reduce. They won't say that don't export, but they put so many conditions that exporters find the conditions very expensive, and you find that the market is not worth entering into. So China is a master of devising and this is a major problem with US and China trade. China wants to export, but it does not want to import. It says it wants to import, but maybe from certain countries, certain products, and that from America, from other countries. So it uses many different types of opaque and non-transparent barriers. Now, just to tell you why we are not able to export groundnut to European Union. As you know, there is a fungus called aflatoxin in groundnut. India's standards is 30 parts per billion. US says that it should be 22. European Union says it should be 15. And Japan says it should be 9. So unless you grow groundnut in different fields and keep close watch on it, you cannot grow in the same field for export to European Union and export to other countries, because you will not be able to keep up with the standards which has been set by European Union. Their standards are very, very high. So we have to keep on improving our standards, and even within the country, we have to keep on improving our standards if we want to have a good steady market. Argentina exports without any problem to without any inspection. We have a very high inspection rate, but Argentina groundnut exports without inspection, because European Union is convinced that Argentina is taking all possible steps to reduce various types of pests and fungus. So improving standards improve our exports. Now, wherever there is a non-tariff barrier, our exports have plunged. For example, Indonesia, our exports are only 29 million out of its total import of nearly $1 billion. While Vietnam, our exports are almost you can say 20%, and India is the third rank. Again, Malaysia, non-tariff barrier, Thailand, non-tariff barrier, Philippines does not put any non-tariff barrier. What are these non-tariff barriers? We'll share. So wherever there is non-tariff barrier, the exports are there. Wherever there is tariff barrier, why there are tariff barriers? Because they want to protect their local industry. You see here also, we are number 1. Why? They are member of a uniform system of registration of products. There are 71 countries today which are members of. And if you, within these 71 countries, if you inspect from one country, that is taken by inspection by all countries. For example, if Australia inspect a plant in Thailand, then all other 71 countries will accept those documents and no further inspection is required. Otherwise, every country will come and inspect your plants and your system. That increases the cost. So the importer says, why should I get into all that trouble? Let me import from somewhere else, even if the price is a little higher. So our exports, where they are not finished products, mostly they are pharmaceutical raw material which go into local manufacturing. So this is the type of non-tariff barrier which is there. We have been trying, exporters have been trying to tell Indian government for last many years that you should also join, but Indian government so far has not taken any action. Only last week or the week before, I saw a statement by the Indian Minister of Chemical that the manufacturer should get ready, because we will be applying to PICS very shortly. But that is not certain when it will happen, because even when you apply today, it may take several years. America took 6 years to become a member. So it is not an easy thing. It is quite a challenging task. So we have to export, increase our market export by 2025 and 6% by 2030 from present. And that is a very, very challenging thing, but we can do. We have good potential in many of our areas. Without going into details, we are among the leading exporters, but that doesn't mean that in all these areas, our export markets are very good. I mean, ceramics, if you say whole of Africa, we are nowhere, Our exports are largely in the Middle East, Even in Indonesia, our exports are less than 2%, which is such a big ceramics market. And we cannot claim always that Chinese prices are lower. It is not true all the time. Things are different now. Reason is that we are not marketing, we are not displaying at the trade fair there. We are not marketing well. So our products are not known in those countries. Without going into, this is the current status. This is our experience with signed. Now this presentation you can get from AMA. I have given a copy. So I don't want to go into all types of statistics. Main thing is to see what we can do. So these are our vulnerable exports. Our most vulnerable exports are labor, where labor cost is important, where China has leaving, because of its high labor cost, China is leaving certain sectors which have been grabbed by Bangladesh, and even now Cambodia and Myanmar are threatening even Vietnam and Bangladesh by still lower cost. Then what to do? One is the closure of pending negotiation. We do not know when this will happen. Negotiations are going on for 20 years. As I told you, between EU, European Union and Mercosur, South African bloc, after 20 years, they could not sign it was rejected. The signed agreement was rejected by Netherlands. Increase export. Most important thing is that main thing is to increase of value added export. We are largely exporting commodities, fresh vegetables, fresh fruit. They are not value added products. In value added products, even in an area like agricultural products, we stand nowhere in the world. Although we have the world's largest output after China, but China's output is mostly for the Chinese population. We have a surplus of fruits and vegetables, but we are not able to get good markets. Then discovering new markets for existing products. As I said, Africa will in next few years will become a very big market for many different types of products, especially chemicals. As those industries come, textile industries coming up very well, agro industries are coming up very well, agricultural itself output will increase, so they will demand lot of agricultural inputs which India can supply. We are sixth largest chemicals exporter in the world. We are the world's biggest tractor exporter. So we have nothing to worry of in the international market. Only thing is we have to put efforts into that. Marketing efforts are lacking. Adding new products to the export market and reducing barriers to export. Barriers to export is 75% government's job, 25% exporters' job. We'll come to it shortly. Now, this news came only today that new cities to change African, new cities are coming up because now the African industrialization taking place, population is moving, 40,000 people will move into cities every day for next 20 years. You can, and what will these cities demand? All types of products, building material, PVC pipes, roofing, heating, ceramic products, so many different types of, then their industries will require chemicals, steel products, so many different types of products, which the African market is not importing today. So tomorrow it will import. So you have to keep an eye open for that. Garment sector, I don't want to go into how we lost this market, mostly the garment export is a sad story, mostly internal. We always claim that we don't have a FTA with you and Bangladesh is taking away our market. That is only part of the trade, the tariff lines. Tariff is only, what is the average tariff in European Union? 5%. Our costs are between 15 and 20% higher than Bangladesh. So you cannot blame only tariff for the loss of markets. You see how many labor laws are there. Average factory in India employs 80 people because they want to keep it below 100. But average factory in Bangladesh employs 3,500 people. So you see, when you scale up, your cost goes down.
These are another 5 minutes, huh?
Another 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
And after that, another 5 minutes for. This is the last slide I will show you.
Yeah.
You see, Japan and Korea import almost 50% of its food requirement, but not from India. Why not from India? We have an FTA with Japan. We have an FTA with Korea. You see how we display products at the Japan Food Fair. We are the largest exporter of a product which we don't even eat in this country. Then why can't we export other products to Japan? Curry and rice is the national food of. I asked so many times in my program. I asked people what is the national food of Japan. Somebody says noodle. Somebody says, but actually, national food of Japan is rice and curry, and same is true of Korea. It has long history why it happened that way, and India is connected with it. But we are not an exporter of rice and curry. You will find Japanese curry there. You will find Thai curry there, but you will not find Indian curry there because we don't do any market research. We don't product. We don't create products for specific markets, and then we those markets go somewhere else. You know, we are doing very well in our Chinese market, but very little presence in e-commerce. We'll shortly go here. I'll just giving you, you know, here you see castor oil. Gujarat has 70% of the market, world market, but we only export low value castor oil. China and other countries, they import a castor oil from India, and castor oil derivatives, that are the chemical products out of castor oil, they extract and export. Why we don't export? Whole of India with the 70% market, we don't have a single R&D center for this product. Even a Gujarati entrepreneur has set up a derivative plant in Oman rather than India. From where it will get the raw material? From India. So many products, you see, this is sold as lentils vegetable soup, masoor dal. Without going into great detail, I'll just tell you about a little bit about Japan. You see our export performance. Japan, 08 HS code. Ecuador, fruits, Ecuador export, total exports of Ecuador is 3.5 billion. India's total export of fruits is 1.5 billion. Ecuador is such a small country that on a small map you cannot see it. Vegetables, Ecuador exports $52 million to Japan. Our export is 4.7 million. Why? Our distance is less. We have a very large base of raw material. Why we are not able to export? Because Ecuador exports frozen vegetable. Our frozen rank is very, very low. So you see, even with distance, logistics advantage, even with raw material advantage, we are not able to capture markets because you have to have products which the market demand. It imports bangan slices from frozen bangan slices from Vietnam, Japan. Why we can't sell? You know, same with our gobi, cauliflower. There is a huge market, but it doesn't go from India because we only sell fresh vegetables. So we have to, if you want world markets, you have to create products for world markets. See the frozen vegetables, India's rank is 26. Thailand rank, which is a small country, rank is only 11. So here I will end. And you can see balance of the story repeats from product to product. If you have any questions, I will answer now. Unfortunately, there is another program coming, so we could not continue with. Let me see if there are any questions.
Yes, sir. Any questions, participants? Please, we'll take a couple of questions to Abhidi, sir.
If there are any questions, please put in the chat. Just 1 or 2 minutes only.
Sir, where can we get castor oil further? Any books or website?
Castor oil?
Castor oil value addition details.
Lot of companies are doing in India. For example, Jayant Organics is doing. But you see, their plants are very small. The Indian largest plant is 10,000 tons. Oman plant, which is coming up, which has already gone into second phase of expansion, is 45,000 ton.
No, what I mean is value addition item list from castor oil.
We have a in AMA. If you go, I have written a handbook on castor oil. You will see all the data there.
Okay, thank you.
Also see our handbook on specialty chemicals, where also I have put castor oil data there.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
What about IT software? About what? We are already one of the biggest exporters. So what particular you want to know? Share the content PPT. Of course, AMA will give you.
Sure, sir. Yeah, we'll do it, sir.
As someone who wants to start exporting textile, the biggest textile item today, India's biggest, I would say, is home textile. That is bed linen, bath linen. This is the biggest. We have 40% US market, and this is one product which is going very good in Chinese market also. So a textile, our best product today is, you see, this product is not based on low labor cost. You see, this is a mill-made product. So Bangladesh cannot compete, Vietnam cannot compete, Ethiopia cannot compete. Other countries who can compete, their costs are already higher. So this is something. Second is our in textile, I would say our handloom sector, handicraft sector, very good market. Our khadi is improving very well. You see, you have to develop the markets. Like khadi has just woken up to the potential. And there was a very big exhibition of khadi at one of the largest department stores in New York City. It was very well accepted because these are the fabrics which you cannot get in any other country. You know, how about shirting, sir? I don't know about every single market. You see our, our book on handbook on textiles, which I wrote, and I gave a presentation also some weeks back. You see that you will get a lot of, yes, there is a market, no doubt. Shirting also there is a market. But I cannot give a great deal. It's mostly about the RCEP. So you see and you continue to come to our product webinars, and country webinars. Then we will give you more specific data. We have some 60 books. I have written some 60 books. You get copies of that from the AMA.
You can also get an e-copy of that book from
you can also get e-copy. Mr. Thank you very much for such a
thank you, sir. Thank you,
AMA as usual, very cooperative. I hope that next time, please give some more time.
Sure, definitely, sir. Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.